Inside Monrovia, a show created and hosted by our community, spotlighting local businesses, organizations, and incredible people that make up our neighborhood. This is Inside Monrovia. Thanks for watching Inside Monrovia. If you are living here in Monrovia, or if you're a neighbor of the city, or if you're just finding out about our town, welcome. I want you to feel welcome. And I hope by the end of the show, you'll have a better understanding of the city of Monrovia. It's a bit of a different show that we're doing. My name is Chris Los. I'm alumni here, Monrovia High School, class of 93. Proud of that, but I'm also joined by another Monrovia alum, Jamie Ritchie.
Whoop, whoop. Class of 88.
Class of 88, nice. Thank you for being here, I appreciate that. This is a different conversation that we're having, but I'm super excited because I love this town.
Yeah.
And your family has been here in Monrovia since?
Well, so the house that I'm living in now, when my grandparents first bought it, it was my grandparents and my great-grandma. And I want to say that was like 1952 maybe.
Okay.
And so I'm living in it now with my son, so that's 5 generations. And then we have the 6th generation that is not living in the home, but definitely celebrates in the home and experiences life in the home.
No, it's great. I'm sure like the stories told are crazy.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a certain spot in the house where you take family photos all the time?
It's got a great porch,
Okay.
like so many of the homes here. It's a craftsman home, and so the porch kind of makes a nice photo.
For sure. So 50s with great grandma.
Mm-hmm.
By the time young Jamie enters, what is like? Walk me through like Foothill or Huntington or the street or your early memories.
Yeah, well, I used to do what I called fact checks with my mom, because I would have these memories, and my mom was a working mom. My grandmother actually was a surgical nurse at Monrovia Hospital, and which is, I think, Monrovia Community Health Center now on Jasmine. And that was Monrovia Hospital. She was a nurse there. And my grandfather worked downtown, and so there was always a juggling of us kids. But I had this memory that I would take a taxi cab to preschool, and my preschool was behind, I think it's the First Baptist Church, across from the post office. So right there, like on Ivy and Palm.
Okay.
And it seemed odd to me, the memory. And so, sometimes our memories are clouded by other things. And so I called my mom and I said, hey, fact check, which was a thing for us. And I ran that down to her, and she goes, oh yeah, well, Grandma didn't always have a car to take you to preschool. And I was like, y'all sent me in a taxi cab to preschool?
And it was just you?
Yeah. Wow. And I don't know if it was the same taxi driver, I don't know, but I remember sitting out on the porch with my little metal lunchbox waiting for the taxi and going to preschool.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was like half a mile. I don't know.
I love that. But I just like that it was that community to where it was like, the taxi takes you to preschool.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine putting my son in an Uber to go to, the 4th grade.
Right, yeah.
That is, and so was your great grandpa was you said he was working downtown? Was it still Myrtle Street was downtown?
Oh, no, downtown Los Angeles.
Okay, got
it. He would like leave and do the commute thing.
Yep.
So my grandma was here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was okay. So preschool in the cab.
Yeah. Lots of history.
That's kind of amazing. Yeah.
And J.C. Penney was down town, and it was, oh man, there's just so many memories, and which then was Fourth Dimension most recently, right? And it had the downstairs, and so that was where the fabrics were, and some of the you could go downstairs at J.C. Penney.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a J.C. Penney.
Jamie, do you know how many hours me and my friends have spent in Fourth Dimensions, like
that's a
before they
juicy
closed it
penny.
down. Like that was the spot.
Yeah.
That was like, you know, you go there, you play pool.
pool, yeah.
I think was it Thursday night free pool or something like that. We had like our nights figured
Yeah.
out, so we would always enjoy pool there, and that makes sense because the spot was huge.
Yeah.
So
There's a department store.
J.C. Penney's.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I want to know what the dance floor downstairs, the Fourth Dimension was like.
Yeah, so much history. And I was actually born at Santa Teresita.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. I've never met anyone else who was.
I live right behind it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm familiar, but I
I
think,
was born there.
so I've been there since 89, or my family's been there since 89. And I think that was right around the time it stopped being a full hospital and kind of started to downsize, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I just liked waking up
1970, yeah.
to the bells,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
to hearing the church organ, and like it's like, wow, this is cool. Like, or on the hour they'll hit the alarm or whatever.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You've seen such a lot of growth here
Yeah.
in the city. For you, did you stay here like through high school, junior high school, all that?
Yeah, my mom went to the high school, my brother and I went to the high school, and then my son went to the high school as well. And so we're all Wildcat alumni. And so when my mom and her sister and my uncle went there, at the beginning it had been MAD, so for Monrovia, Arcadia, and Duarte. And then I think while my mom was there, it transitioned to just Monrovia, Duarte. And then obviously by the time I was there in 84 to 88, it was just Monrovia High.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, what was the vibe like at that time? Because I remember I loved my high school years. Like, it was just amazing. Was it a fun high school? Was it I know it was just a different moment.
So different than when my son went there. But, you know, quite honestly, in high school, I was already struggling with my own problems and trying to figure out how to just be okay. And so I had different groups of friends, and I had friends that were solid and like doing all the right things, and then I had friends that weren't. And you know, I went to school before smoking was like taboo, and we actually had a smoking section on campus.
I totally
So
know.
wild.
Wild to
I think
now.
back about that, right? And so I had friends, you know, that were kind of like all lost and scattered, like in their own lives, like I was kind of on the verge of. And so I really started to struggle then. I was involved in things. I was on the drill team and played volleyball, and actually went out for track. Did shot put.
Nice.
You know, but I was really, it was really the beginning of my struggles in life.
Wow. In high school.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just interesting to me too, the makeup of all of it, like smoking section. And I felt like by the time I was in high school, it wasn't the section, but it was like you had, you know, Tom's on the corner of Foothill and Madison. That was like where everybody ditched, hung out, grabbed some French fries, and smoked, drank, whatever. That was that kind of like area. For you, as you look back now, where would you have liked to have seen help? Or do you think you could have received help at that time? For the thoughts that you were having as a young lady.
Yeah. I think some of the things that I see in place now that I may have been able to connect with and see hope then are like talking circles in schools with kids that are at risk, or you know, where there's a marked difference, like things are okay and then something happens.
Yeah.
I've seen those be really successful with kids starting to feel connected with leaders at school, and to stay involved.
So like a talking circle, teacher or counselor, students,
Yeah,
and conversation.
where people can have meaningful conversations. I think that's what it's about, right? Is finding community and having meaningful conversations where you feel you can identify with others. When you start to feel like, when I, at any point in my life, start to feel like I'm the only one experiencing what I'm experiencing, it gets magnified. Whether that's true or not, it gets worse because I'm alone in it. So I think things like that may have been helpful for me.
Yeah, no, that makes, I mean, you just saying that, I always feel like that is what has triggered me, you know, in the thought of like where I hit those lonelier or darker moments, it was because I just didn't feel like I connected to anything or anybody. That isolation is terrifying.
Yeah.
I definitely hope that, like, as I'm thinking now, like, that's something I'd love to ask high school students now, like, if they feel as though they're being heard in these realms, because you have social groups, right? You've got social networks even, like, are there, like, how are you supported? I'm just more curious about that now as we kind of come through this pandemic and this moment, and we look forward to making adjustments, right? Like, what was this pandemic's timeout that we huddled up and addressed a few things so we can come out and handle things a little bit better?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I say is no one is coming out of this the same.
Correct, for sure.
Everyone will be changed from this experience. And there are things that we're experiencing together, in the sense of we've all gone through quarantine in our homes. We've all gone through fear, loss, because someone that we know either was sick, we were sick, someone that we know has passed. But then we've also each gone through our own individual struggle during this last year that was unique to our life. That didn't have to do directly with the pandemic, but we experienced it within the context of the pandemic. And so for all of that, no one is coming out of this unchanged. And you're right. I think how do we acknowledge that for ourselves and for the youth at the same time, and be the best that we can for ourselves, and still support the youth and make sure that they are recognizing that and able to have a place to process that and find strength again.
Absolutely. On another episode, we had Emily McCarthy, who is a freshman at Monrovia High School, and just a conversation with her on her being that generation that graduated junior high school as it hit, right? So you've got the drive-through graduation ceremony, and then you begin high school on your screen.
Yeah.
Right?
So odd.
Everything is different, and I think that's what, I love what you said. It's just like we're all coming through this change. Different.
Yeah.
I think for some it's gone different in a darker way. I think for others it's gone different in the way that it should. And you have the ability to come out in a better form is what we all hope for. Does that happen? I don't know, right? But I do know that if you don't have support at this moment, it's a lot easier to go a different way.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that that's the most important thing for people to know and understand, that no matter how separate or alone you feel, based on whatever the set of circumstances are, that there's always hope and there's always help. You talked about that isolation being a low point, or kind of dark times, and I found myself there at the beginning of quarantine where I said I started having problems in high school, and I jokingly say I went to a party when I was 16 and left when I was 26. So
that's a party right there. But, yeah.
I was the only one that stayed, though. So when I was 26, I got sober and put together some long-term sobriety and had 23 years. And I was active in my recovery and very active in the recovery community, and found myself in a set of circumstances at the beginning of quarantine that I was not well. Mentally and emotionally, I was not well, and I decided that I would treat myself in a way non-conventionally that required me to change my sobriety date. And so I found myself newly sober again after 23 years, quarantined, alone, at home, just me and my 2 dogs, and in a lot of fear, because I knew that I would go one of 2 ways. Either I wouldn't be able to get my feet back under me again because what's going on in this world? Who's going to help me?
Yes.
How am I going to connect with people? You know, addiction and alcoholism happen in a vacuum, but recovery does not. Recovery requires connection and community and support and someone who's further along than you to kind of, you know, model and mentor you along the way.
Yes.
And so I had a lot of fear. And you know, but for the grace of God, I've been able to put together almost a year again, and I'm super grateful for that. But I've also come to know during this last year that people who never had a problem have become found themselves in a place where they do. People who have had sobriety, like myself, have relapsed, and people who were kind of on the edge have crossed the line. And you know, the amazing thing about help is that it also adapted. And so while it doesn't look the same, just like school doesn't look the same, like this doesn't look the same, help doesn't quite look the same, but it's still there. Help is still available.
Hi guys, my name is Danenelson. I own a small detail business in the San Gabriel Valley. I've been doing it for about a year now, and I have a couple tips for you today to keep your car well maintained. The first tip would be to park anywhere near shade, underneath trees, big trees. Don't try to park underneath the trees that have sap falling down, because that could also damage your car. But anywhere near shade, just so it keeps it off the sun and helps it clear coat out so it doesn't fade and last you longer. The second tip would be to park away from any sprinkler heads that you guys have, mainly in the driveway or next to curbs. They could also leave a bunch of hard spot waters, because water has calcium in it, and it leaves it really hard to get off the paint. And lastly would be to get it detailed about once every 6 months. It does help the paint out big time, and also helps the interior so it doesn't get as messy for you in the car as it can be, because I know with families, the car does get pretty dirty. And lastly, you guys can hit me up on Instagram or give me a text. I do come to San Gabriel Valley and surrounding areas as well too. Thank you guys.
All right, we are back. Had a moment to gather my thoughts as we sit here with Jamie Ritchie. Thank you for being here. We kind of went right there as we were wrapping up that part of the conversation into what it is like to be setting that new date. For you, if you don't mind, if we could go back to like the moment as you were there with your dogs alone. You've tried now other things to help you. Where, if you don't mind walking me through like where you're at that moment, kind of in what's in your head at that time.
Yeah. I was awakened at 5 a.m. With an urgency that I had a very small window of opportunity to be honest and to do something. And for me and all the sober experience that I had, I knew that that window may not last very long, and that there were a whole lot more ways it could go down the tubes than the chance that I could, like I said, get my feet back under me again. And so that sense of urgency was real. And recovery has, like I said, adapted, and I knew how to access that on Zoom.
Okay.
And so I dialed into a Zoom group and got honest.
No.
Just told people where I was at.
So and I guess you knew where to go.
Right.
Right?
I did.
Because at that moment is at the 5 in the morning moment, as you're kind of understanding the moment you're in, right? Where you can go this way, or I can get my feet back under me and get back on track. I mean, one of the things we've seen now through the pandemic is, I know you had shared, what was it, 250% increase in alcohol sales?
Yes.
We haven't grown as a population in that kind of percentage over the past year.
No. And so people who, we have people out of work, so they were at home. We have people working from home. And, we have to think too, we had kids at home.
Yes.
So there's this increase in alcohol sales. We have couples who have never spent time together who are now spending all this time together, and kids in that mix. And so there's been, a lot of stressors. And so people who may have never experienced alcohol or substance problems before found themselves in that situation. And like myself, others who had periods of sobriety found themselves hopeless and lost again, and using substances as a way to try and be okay and find some temporary relief. And so I think that it's important, again, to just say that help looks different, but it's still there. But it's changed because, like I said, that connection is vital for someone to feel like they're going to be okay, that they can see in someone else that it works.
Yeah. Jamie, can I ask you, like, as you were having those thoughts and feelings, what was there something that helped you put yourself together to the space of, like, I gotta get help, right? Because as you're by yourself, I love my dog, but I don't know if he'd be able to convince me to do the right thing. And I think that's just such a moment. And I think I'm asking this for other people who may be watching that are struggling, or that have had to change their date a few times since this pandemic. Was there something for you that helped you with that?
I in my sober experience had gotten to the point where I had meaningful relationships in my life that I didn't want to lose. And I know, for me, I know the way, like I said, I went to a party when I was 16, I left when I was 26. So I know what that looks like for me. And I know that the dogs are gone, the house is gone, the kid is gone, the job is gone. Right? Like, I know what that looks like for me. And so I didn't want to even lose that small window of opportunity to perhaps salvage my life, right? To be able to keep the life that I had gained by being sober and being a member of society,
Yeah. A lot to lose now.
A lot to lose.
Yeah, that's important. I think that's such a great thing that it was able to become the priority.
Yeah. And, also I think more than that, I've experienced spiritual freedom where I can live by a greater purpose and serving others and helping people who need help. And I know what that feels like. And I don't want to lose that. You know, I want to be useful, and I'm not useful that way.
So at the moment, because I think that was something that I struggled with for sure when it was the dark space, right? Like feeling useful is it's hard to find that feeling of usefulness when it's dark. But I also know once, when you're on a different side of it, you can see there's so many ways that you can be used to help, others. Was it something for you simply that you saw how it impacted others that helped you go that way? Or was there something that switched for you to find that ability to be, an asset, if you would, as opposed to this other just kind of beat up feeling?
Well, I think that I'm not sure how to share this. My personal relationship with God is first before any of my relationships with others. And I knew that the decisions I had just made prior to changing my date, my sober date, my clean date, required that some of those relationships would change, meaning I was no longer going to be the one helping that person in their recovery, right? And that was hard. That was difficult. I knew that it was going to affect other people. I knew that it was going to, and it was something that I honored and respected so much, to be trusted to help someone in their recovery that way, and to have to let go of that. And I just had to trust God that there was a way, and that I just believe above all else that there is a greater purpose and there is a plan. And he has proven over and over and over and over again that that's true in my life. And with that much proof, with that many receipts, how can I deny that that's going to be true again? So I have experience to rest on in that. And I just,
No, for sure.
I'll choose that over, the possibility of the devastation again.
Yes. And shout out to Pastor Tate for them receipts.
Right?
It is important, I think, as we look back. For what's something that you would share with somebody who's in their own struggle right now, and the pandemic that beat them up, maybe?
Yeah.
What's the light for them, Jamie, that you could share?
Well, probably the first thing I want to say is that me sharing my personal experience doesn't mean that has to be true for anyone else.
Totally.
That you don't have to share my beliefs about God. You don't have to believe in faith the way that I do. I think that that's super, super, super important for people to know and understand. And I think that there's always places that you can go and reach out to for help. And so if I don't know if you want me to share some of those resources.
Yeah, please.
So one thing you can always do is just search online, because so many support groups, recovery groups are still online. So just searching like San Gabriel Valley Zoom AA or San Gabriel Valley Zoom NA, or depending on what your preference is, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and you'll get a list of meetings, and you can always call a central office for one of those. and they'll connect you with whatever meetings are still meeting online. They also know which meetings are meeting in person, and all you have to do is get to one meeting, and someone there will give you more information.
Perfect, yeah.
So it doesn't take a whole lot. The other thing is that if you need outpatient or inpatient, or you're not sure what help looks like right now, for a long time during the quarantine, they weren't taking people into inpatient. And who would want to go?
Right.
You know, they were talking about nursing facilities being a point of concentrated
Right.
exposure, right? And positive tests. Well, that was also true for recovery homes because it was the same dynamic. You had people who were sharing communal living, right? So they're to a place now where health departments have supported them in getting,
Oh, that's great.
you know, policies and procedures in order that have minimized those risks for people.
Yes.
And so if you aren't sure what you need or what help looks like, there is a assessment center that's free. Doesn't matter what insurance you have or don't have. They will talk to somebody, set up an appointment, help you differentiate what support or services you may need. And that's the Prototypes Assessment Center. The one for this area is in El Monte. And they are...
And we're going to put all this
Yes.
information on
So,
the screen. We'll
yes.
have all
So
of that as
I
well.
will give that to Chris, but it is in El Monte, in the El Monte little...
Like shopping center or something?
Yeah, down in that area. And again, it's no cost, and they'll do a thorough assessment and help somebody determine, and then they help connect you with the
Yeah.
services. So all you have to do is ask for the help.
No, that's cool. And I love that it's available easily. Sometimes I feel like, you know, the things that can benefit us the most, while they are there, they're like this impossible unicorn to track down or find.
Yeah. And we do know that the barriers to help are real.
Yeah.
And I think that the quarantine, the COVID experience has put more barriers in place, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you just have to hang on and keep pushing through and persist and know that help is available and people care.
Yeah. Know that people get. Jamie, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for just being this open and honest. I'm going to tell you this. This is like, as we were talking before and getting you in here, our conversation on the phone was what really made me be like, Jamie, we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
We've got to have this conversation. But that's easier for me to say.
Yeah.
That's way easier for me as the guy who's like, yeah, this would be great to say. For you who is living it, very vulnerable moment. And
Thank you.
I appreciate you doing this. Like, I'm so thankful for you and what you meant to Monrovia because of, you know, you being able to do this. Like, yo, you are a Monrovian. Like, yo, there's other people that might be watching this from Monrovia, Duarte, San Gabriel Valley that are like, okay,
Yeah.
she made it.
Yeah.
I can figure this
Yes.
out, or I can get through
Yes.
it. I have 2 dogs too.
Yes.
No, cool. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Chris.
And we'll put the resources up. Also, too, you can find us on Instagram. We are there at inside.monrovia. Connect with us there. We'll always put resources that you're seeing here on the show on the Instagram as well. But Jamie, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your honesty and your willingness to open up this way. Thank you to our folks here at KGEM for allowing us to be here and sharing your platform with us. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time here on Inside Monrovia.